Better. Very cool. Fantastic. Okay, so hello everyone. So I'm hoping the recording's on, and so that looks like it is fantastic. Okay, so hello everyone, and thank you for being here today for today's session. So in today's session, which is a faith integrated leadership session, we want to encourage you to stop splitting yourself in two. That might sound like a bit of a strange one, but we're going to be exploring what it looks like when you lead with your whole self integrity, blending faith and leadership instead of separating them. So, why does all of this matter? Why should we bother looking at it anyway? Well, statistics show us that leaders who operate from integrated values experience 37% higher workplace well-being and 28% stronger team trust. So people within your team trust you some 28% more than someone who doesn't integrate their values. So by the end of today's session, I want you to understand the cost of compartmentalisation and feel empowered to integrate your faith into your leadership, and then have some practical ways to bring your whole self into your work, whatever it is that you are doing. So first of all, our mission then, in a nutshell, is that we're here to create a space where faith-filled leaders like you can align their gifts, their values, and their calling so that you can lead with authenticity, lead with courage, and have a kingdom purpose wherever God has placed you. So that's whatever industry you're in, or even whatever level of leadership or management you hold. So that's kind of what we're looking. So we are welcoming you. So welcome to our session. Okay, so a bit about today's agenda then. So we've got a bit of an action-packed session, as I was saying, that's been planned, where we're going to be covering a number of things. So firstly, we're going to look at the cost of compartmentalisation, how keeping faith and leadership separate creates kind of internal conflict, can lead to burnout and confusion for yourself and for others. We're going to look at faith as a leadership asset, particularly how spiritual alignment can actually foster clarity, foster and build peace, and that kind of ethical confidence in your decision making. Thirdly, I'm going to look at share three ways where you can integrate your faith into your leadership practice. So kind of practical everyday habits for faith-filled leadership. Number 4, we're going to look at how using your spiritual gifts in the marketplace, so how you can do that. So we're going to have a quick dive into how your God-given gifts can show up as real-world leadership strengths, because I love that. 5, we're going to look at, or going to give you access to the spiritual gifts marketplace strengths mapping table, which is a visual mapping table that will help you to connect biblical gifts with business impact, helping you to lead with conviction and purpose to do that more. We'll also give you an opportunity to make it personal. So I do love to throw in a practical challenge. So it's just a short reflection activity that we're hoping will help you to get a sense of what wholeness rather than compartmentalisation could look like. And then 7, finally, when it comes to faith that leads, what's next? So it's your invitation to take the Ethical Influence Scorecard and book a business to faith reset session to explore alignment in your leadership. So that's what we've got on. So loads to get in there, right? So if you could give me a thumbs up in the chat if you're ready to get started. So a thumbs up in the chat if you're ready to get started, that would be helpful. And I know that you're there. Okay, so that would be really good. That would be really good. Just to see what's going on. Okay, let's get my next slide. Fantastic. Okay. Okay, so what is the case against compartmentalisation? So why does separation hurt us? See, many people, and probably a large kind of proportion of the Christian population, believe that faith and business should remain, firmly in firm silos. But the thing is, that kind of mindset separation actually drains your integrity. it undermines your ability to kind of build trust in the people around you. And it actually leaves you feeling quite fragmented internally, which is a really interesting space to be in. So internally, you might feel quite fragmented. Now, if you contrast that with integration, then there's a difference that happens. So when these two elements work together, your faith and leadership practice, it kind of fuels a confidence that's visible to other people. Together, these two things actually help to cultivate a inner or an internal peace. And it also brings clarity and a sense of purpose to what you do. So I'm hoping those kind of things kind of are starting to gel and making sense to you in terms of what happens when you put the two together. So I don't know about you, but I really love to hear about the impact of faith inspired leadership in the real world. Okay, so I love that. So I'm hoping you do too. So let's look at what the data says. What does the data say? So according to a Forbes article, it notes that when leaders lead from value, they are better able to make clear decisions. They're able to communicate, their vision, they're able to articulate that well, and they're able to engage their teams, okay? Also, research from McKinsey indicates that 74% of leaders confirm that they're actually guided by their core values. And when they lead decisively based on those values, it actually builds trust, it kind of increases clarity, and it actually builds that momentum in the workplace. That's according to McKinsey. And then according to MIT Sloan, and this is a management review magazine, leaders who regularly articulate their values, or not only articulate them, but actually live by them, are more prepared to make better decisions during crisis. I think that's kind of really important as well. So there you have it. Even the data suggests or indicates that leaders who lead according to their personal values actually make clearer decisions, they build trust within their organisations, and they're better leaders in times of crisis, which I think further underpins the importance of having more faith-inspired leadership in business. So definitely. So I don't know if you've got any thoughts about the data. So if you've got any thoughts about the data at all, then please just drop a comment in the chat. If you feel free to do that, and any questions you've got, and do that throughout the presentations as we're going forward. So any thoughts, any comments, just drop them in the chat as we move forward. Okay, so what are the benefits then of this approach? What are the benefits of this approach? Well, there are a number of benefits cited of kind of faith integrated leadership. And these include things like, number one, experiencing an increase in a level of self-confidence, so how you feel inside, and also increase in personal clarity, so you know what you're about. So when your decisions align with your values, especially the values that are fueled by your faith, you'll lead, you'll lead, and your approach to leadership challenges. Your approach to leadership challenges actually helps you to lead with boldness rather than from a position of fear, or even more so, just mere performance. So when they're interlined in that way, you're actually able to lead with more boldness, which I think is great. Number two, so another thing that's cited when you're integrating faith and leadership is that there's an increase in inner peace. Okay, so you see, when you're not caught up juggling between two sets of personas, our leadership naturally becomes an expression of our faith. And we get the opportunity to be really us, that whole be real, be uniquely us, leading authentically, which brings a sense of internal calmness. And so you get that as well. I think that's also important because, we often hear and know that leadership can be a lonely place at times. But if you've got that peace within, that calmness within, it can only make that experience better. And then finally, another point that's cited is leadership consistency and leading with your integrity intact, which is what we're called to do. So what I'd like to do is if you could just put your virtual hands up, so just let me know with some indication in the chat, if you've ever experienced a Jekyll and Hyde manager or leader in the workplace. So you know that kind of thing where you're on your way to work and you're just thinking about that particular manager, like what personality or what part of them is going to show up to work when I get there, and you know that whoever they show themselves in that workplace moment tends to be a reflection of what they're going through internally or what they may have experienced the previous day. So you're just kind of wondering who is going to show up. Now, you don't have to admit it, so I'm not asking you to admit it, but I just wonder if how many of us have ever been that person at some point in your career, in our career so far. So I don't know if you've ever come across somebody like that, just kind of let me know, or if that's been yourself, so that kind of honesty bit. But no indictment, just a question. So I remember, and this might kind of highlight that. I remember when I was in a workplace, this is a long time ago, and I'd gone through some kind of employee assessment, and I was sitting down being debriefed by my manager, and she said, "The thing is, Oinka, and say you come into work and we think you're great and you have such a big impact, but I don't think you realize that the times that you come into work and you're really high and it's great, but then another time you may come in and you're really low, but there's no mid ground, so we're not quite sure where you're at." So it's that kind of thing. And I guess if those of us who've got high energy, that might be something to look at. But when you let your faith underpin your work, underpin your work, the Holy Spirit can step in and help you to kind of even out your behavior. And then your team and the people around you can actually trust that you'll show up consistently in the same way, in an ethical way every day. So that kind of, it gives them something that they know that they can trust. So I'm going to try something a little bit different. So yeah, we'll see what happens now and we'll see what happens on a replay as well. But okay, so I just want to do a quick little poll if I can. And I just want to see how confident are you that your faith shapes your leadership decisions. So I want to see if we can just throw a poll in there to see if that would work. I'm not sure if that's going to work or not. But anyway, just how confident on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being very confident and 1 being not confident or somewhere in the middle, where, how confident are you that your faith actually shapes your leadership decisions? So just see if we can put that. So not at all would be a 1, 2 would be a little, somewhat, mostly, completely. So which one would you say? So I'm sure how we answer that. But yeah, so that's kind of in there. So I'll leave that up and let's just see if we get any answers in there. So mostly, so we've got a mostly at the moment. So just see if anybody else has got anything they want to add to that, which is kind of great. So I'll let that continue. But kind of wherever we are, it's kind of, if we're always doing it, then we are a great example to others. If we're not doing it as much, well, then at least gives us an indication that we can do something about it. So wherever you are, it's great, but it's just good to understand and get a sense of where we are for ourselves. So yeah, so I'll just kind of leave that up for a little while and see. So mostly, which is good. So as leaders, believers of faith, it's good that we are doing those things more so. So that's fantastic. Okay, cool. So let me just see what we've got next. Okay. So what I want to do is I just want to introduce 3 tools or tactics that can actually help you to integrate your faith into your leadership. So these ideas might seem straightforward, but that's okay because I think they can still be useful. So number 1 is prayerful check-ins. So take some time out or to pause before you're making any high stakes decisions or any decisions, but definitely the high stake ones. Just take some time to pause, to reflect or to pray and ask for clarity. So it could be as simple as, Lord, what's your wisdom here? and see what happens. So just in those moments, just to pause, be prayerful, and ask the question and see what happens. So that's number one. Number two is around values-driven benchmarks. So what you can do is you can set yourself up with or have three guiding values that are yours, that you can kind of tap into at any time. For example, it could be honesty, it could be compassion, it could be courage. Whatever those things are for you. And simply ask yourself at each milestone, is this aligned? So whatever you're going through, every now and again, is just stopping and just checking in with your values and asking yourself, is this or are these being aligned? And then this will give you an opportunity to course correct in the moment. So I don't know if you've heard that saying that, just act first and repent at leisure. This is an opportunity then to actually change the behaviour while you're in operation rather than going back and apologising. So just taking that moment to reflect and ask yourself that question. And then finally, another idea is using a spiritual gifts integrity I can't say that word now, integration. Okay, so using a gifted fractions values and gifts map, and that can help you to apply or utilize your spiritual gifts in your daily workplace tasks. So what we're going to do, we've got, quite a bit of detail around kind of faith integrated leadership. There's some reflection and an activation worksheet that comes with today's session. So later on, we're going to be sending it out to you later on. So we're hoping that will help you to reflect on today's session and begin integrating your faith more intentionally into your everyday leadership. So it's just a trigger to get us to think about those things. So that's fantastic. Okay, that's great. So we're going to be sending that out to you a bit later on. I was just looking at my screen, so I've just got a bit off then. But yeah, so we're going to be sending that out to you later on. But for now, I just want us to have a quick reflection activity right now, because I do like us to do something practical in our session. So this is a very quick activity. So I just want you, so I'm just going to close that poll down. Okay, that's fantastic. So that was the results from I'll share that in a moment. Okay, so this is what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to reflect for a moment and just to list down two or more, but two recent decisions where your faith felt separate from your work. So just think back, where you just felt it could just be momentarily, it doesn't have to be a big thing, but I just want us to be able to think in those moments at those times when we don't feel completely integrated in what we're doing. So where your faith felt separate from your work, just a couple of indications. And then what I want you to do is just to choose one. So just choose one, and then I would give you an opportunity to rewrite how you would lead with faith front and centre using one of the three practical integration tools. So it's almost if you could rewrite the script and go and do that moment again. If you use one of the three tools that we've mentioned, what could be different? What could be the change that you'd make? So whether it's actually thinking about it, I could have prayed before the meeting. Maybe it's about speaking your values more openly or sharing your values openly. Or it could be using the gift of, say, discernment in that situation, or to serve, the gift of serving or help. Do you know what I mean? It's just thinking about your spiritual gift and your and those other tools, and how could you use that differently in that situation if you were going to replay it. And then it'd be great if you could just share one example of that in the chat. So would you what would you change? So that's what I'd ask you to do. So just think about that for a moment and let's just see what you come up with. Think about that for a moment and see what you come up with. So one thing that you would change if you were to replay a moment again. Yeah, so if you think about that. I guess for me, when I think about the things that have happened kind of recently, we're consultants, and it's in those times when we are putting our offers across, and also kind of being supported to from people who've been there, seen and done it. So being supported by other people's ideas about what you should do in your business. So I hope you know what I'm talking about there. But in those moments for me, it's about not just listening and taking on board wholeheartedly what somebody else says, but in that moment, kind of prayerfully, Lord, is this something you want me to apply? Is this something that you want me to do? So that's just something I could do more often. Yeah, when I think about the moment it's happened recently. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. So, and in that moment, just feeling at peace with the direction and just knowing that the Holy Spirit is guiding, I think that gives you the opportunity. So anyway, that's my example. So I don't know if anybody else has got any other examples they can just drop in the chat for me. That would be great. Yeah, that'd be really good if I could see that. But that's kind of what we're talking about here. And then as you're thinking about that, for me, this activity just goes to show that even one small change to integrate your faith into your leadership can have a real impact on how you or your team experience leadership. So I'm just looking at the time. I know we're up against time, but I just wanted to share quickly a little story that this reminds me of. So I hope you'll indulge me. Okay, so it reminds me of a previous client that I had. And I once coached using a 360-degree feedback process framework. So we had, real data against the behavioural actions that they were going to take on board. So during our time together, this client did modify their behaviour, and they were promoted to a very senior position within the organisation. In fact, in that national team, that person came top 10 in the top 10% of his year for that promotion board and promotion activity. Now, a few months later, I was on a call with somebody much later, much lower down in the organisation, and they commented how they had noticed a change in this person's behaviour since being promoted. So apparently, they used to open the door for people, they used to smile and engage with people that they met on the corridor in the organisation. But since, the kind of promotion, they noted that very recently he just let the door close in their face without any acknowledgement. And they said how hurt they were about that. So anyway, I had a conversation with the person, because I do follow up with clients every now and again just to check in how they are. And we ended up having a conversation about that incident. And I asked them quite nicely, would you like some feedback? They did, and we had a conversation. But I just wanted to say, for leaders, just giving 30 seconds of your time as a well-respected leader in your organisation to actually see somebody, to actually acknowledge somebody in the workplace has a massive impact on them. And that impact can last days or even weeks. So, a small change can make a difference. So what we've got is, I had a split decision, was offering a high-paying contract, but the company's values clash with my Christian principles. That trusting that God is my provider, I chose to decline the contract. Oh, that's fantastic. And I'm committed to working with organisations aligned with kingdom values, even if it costs more upfront. So that's that's an amazing story in terms of those split decisions and just taking the time to reflect and asking God in that moment and trusting that the best will, he has the best for you and all things will work out. I love that. So I guess, what I'm saying is a small change can and really does have a significant difference in people's lives. So I'm hoping that, the other people on the call have actually seen some things and are able to think about what we're talking about. Okay, so I'm just taking time. Okay, so one of the aims of the Gifted for Action brand is to equip people for effective and godly leadership. So these integration tools, the prayer check-ins, your value-driven and benchmarks, and your kind of values and gift maps, they form part of the Gifted for Action toolkit. So another tool that we have on offer is the Ethical Influence Scorecard. And this is designed to help you to quickly assess your current level of alignment in your business. So your current level of alignment in your business. So if you'd like to explore how aligned your faith and leadership is right now, then why not take the Ethical Leadership Scorecard challenge? Okay, so use the QR code that's on the screen now, and also the link that's going to come up in the chat. So just use that just to go in and complete the gifted fraction, sorry, the ethical influence scorecard. So just go in and have a go at doing that. And let me know how you get on. That would be really great. So just use that scorecard, use that QR code to go and have a look at and complete the ethical influence scorecard. So that's kind of one thing that you can do. That's great. Okay, so that will come up in the chat in a bit. Okay, so moving on then. So, my question is, are you ready to stop splitting your leadership and start leading boldly with faith? If you are, then I want to invite you to schedule a business faith reset session with me. Okay, so this is an opportunity to realign your leadership with faith, with values, and with your mission. It's also a way in which you can help you to identify any drift that may be happening or has happened, and to map out how you can close that gap. And then also it's helps you to kind of build a strategy for clarity, for conviction, and for courageous living. So again, so again, here's the QR code. Just to book a session with me, and there's the link for the reset is in the chat as well. So use the QR code to book in your free 40-minute session. Okay, so spaces are limited, and so do secure your place now. Okay, secure your place now. So that's an easy one to do. I look forward to seeing you on the inside. Okay, so we've covered quite a lot today. It's been a bit fast paced, but here's a quick recap of the main bits. So, integrating your faith into your leadership practice enhances your confidence, actually builds peace, and helps with your integrity. And you can use various tools that can actually, help you to embed your integration easily and do that on a daily basis. And then in terms of your next steps, then why not book a reset session with me, but also take the scorecard challenge and see what you find. I'd love to hear what you kind of get from that. And as a closing thought, if I may, leading without splitting isn't just ideal, it's essential. So when you bring your whole self, the faith, and your role, you lead from your center, from your core, and everything changes. So we've got lots of development opportunities, in our program. So feel free to drop me a yes in the or in the chat, or just direct message me at any point. So you can do that on LinkedIn. If you're interested in joining our Faith Inspired Leadership Lab membership group, okay, so just drop me a message, and then I can come back to you and give you some details about that and how you can get involved. So feel free just to say yes in the chat, or just private message me. That would be great. And then one final thing before we close out. Could you do me a favour? Could you just share one word in the chat that describes how you feel compared to maybe at the start of the session? So based on the knowledge, based on what we've been sharing, how do you feel about some of the things that we've talked about? So what's one word that describes how you feel now compared to at the start of the session? So one of the words that I came up with when I was thinking this bit, I was looking at the work, was about empowered. It's actually I can make those changes. I can bring the Holy Spirit into my everyday more often. So that was one for me. But any words, if you can just put them in a chat, that would be fantastic. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your attention to now and in the replay. I look forward to walking with you as you lead with new boldness, as you lead with clarity, and most of all, lead with faith. So until next time, I'm going to say take care and God bless. So I'm going to switch off the recording, and then if anybody wants to have a chat, then we can do that sometimes.